Diane Barrett with the BE Collection. I'm interviewing Shannon. It is October 12th, 2021, the official Columbus Day. I remember that. So welcome. Thank you for being here. And my first question is your occupations that you've had, past and present.
So I've been a Christian minister in 3 different denominations, and I'm currently acting as the attendant secretary for an elementary school.
Okay. Are you still doing the ministry work?
No, not officially. Just
Part of you?
Still being an outreach to the queer community as a Christian minister, but I'm not a minister in a formal sense at all.
Okay. Was that by your choice?
No.
No. What happened?
Well, I was a Christian minister in a very conservative denomination, and when I came out as gay in 2006, I was thrown out of the church and my clergy credential was revoked. And so I went from being a reverend to being nothing, and had to sort of reinvent myself and figure things out, partially figure out what it meant to be gay, because I didn't identify as gay prior to that.
So how do they identify you as gay then?
Pardon me?
How do these people say you're gay if you hadn't identified yourself as gay?
Well, I had fallen in love with my best friend, and we began a relationship, a romantic relationship. And when the denomination leadership found out, and they asked me and I admitted to it, then I was thrown out.
Huh. How sad.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
2006.
How do you recover from something like that?
Well, you cry a lot. I honestly was a hot mess because not only did I lose my job, which was my dream. I always wanted to be a minister since I was 14. I also eventually lost my husband because I was in a heterosexual marriage at the time. And when I realized I was gay, you know, that kind of put the kibosh on that relationship, although he handled it really, really nicely. And then I ended up losing my home because I moved out, you know, from that marriage relationship. So I really kind of lost everything there for a little while, including all of my friends, because they were also members of that denomination. As soon as I said I was gay, they stopped talking to me.
So what denomination was it?
Church of the Nazarene.
Huh. How's your health after all that?
Well, that was 2006, and I was younger then, and so my health didn't suffer that much as, but
that's good.
Yeah, Christian ministry is a tough thing. It's a tough profession to be in, and then to have all of that taken away, it was really devastating. I was really a mess for a couple of years.
I can understand that.
And then I found out, because I didn't actually realize in 2006, I didn't realize that any Christians thought homosexuality was okay. But part of this 3-year experience that I went through after losing my job like that was, you know, I had to think through all my theology and sort of wonder whether or not they were right and homosexuality was wrong. And I came to find out through study that actually there are huge portions of the Christian church that have never thought homosexuality was wrong. And that the sort of the current modern interpretation of that is very modern, from maybe the late 1800s on. So in a 2,000-year religion, it's really just been a tiny little part of the time that people have thought it was wrong. So I discovered that, and then I discovered that not all churches thought that. And so I became a minister again in another progressive denomination.
Good.
And yeah, but again, Christian ministry is hard. And so I went through a really bad depression, and I have generalized anxiety disorder. And so, yeah, so I had a meltdown during a church council meeting.
This was the second connection that you made with ministry?
Yeah, and I was clergy in that denomination.
And did they know that you were homosexual?
Oh yeah, totally affirming denomination. And so that was fine with that. They loved it. As a matter of fact, I was their face to the community. They absolutely loved having a gay minister. But when I had this meltdown at the church council meeting, which mostly revolved around money, they fired me on the spot. So the Christian church has a lot of work to do with mental health issues and what they expect from their ministers.
Very strange. So it's probably good you moved on. So are you still, what stops you from doing the work that you love in the ministry now? Is it just that you don't belong to officially a denomination?
Right. So, I mean, theologically, I'm
just curious.
Yeah, no, theologically, I'm a Methodist. And so I've served in the church, in the Methodist church, which they're having their own problems with homosexuality. But in this area, Spokane, in this Western area, the Western jurisdiction, they call it, they've been fully affirming for a long time. And so that's not the problem. But to pursue ministry in a mainline church, you have to go through 3 years of study and preparation, and it ends up being like 7 years before you actually get ordained. And when the Methodists found out that at one point I had been suicidal, they determined that I was not fit to be clergy in their denomination either. So I've actually been rejected by 3 different denominations.
Wow. How about the Episcopalians?
They're super. They're great.
Right.
They're awesome. We love Episcopalians. But again, it's at this point I've sort of decided that the institutional church is probably not my jam. So
how did they find out you were suicidal? Did you tell them?
Yeah, they asked, and I said I was, and I was currently in trauma therapy with a trauma therapist, and she was willing to speak to the board about it. And the church has a lot of work to do around mental health issues.
Sounds like it.
So
around other issues also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the Pope's working on it, but not doing
it.
Right. Yes. So where were you born?
San Francisco, California.
Oh, you were. Huh. And how many children in your family? Are you an only child? Or?
No, I'm the youngest of 5.
Uh-huh.
I was born quite late, but my mother started having children at 35 and stopped having children at 45 with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I had sort of older parents.
So she was, every 2 years she was doing this.
Pretty much.
Right. She was busy. Right.
Yeah.
And do you have contact with them now, your siblings and parents?
Well, my parents have both passed. I lost my mom like 26, 27 years ago. And my dad passed away when I was 10. And I still am in contact with all of my 4 siblings, but we're not super great together. So mostly it's text messages and just trying to keep the ties connected.
Mm-hmm. And are any homosexuals in your family that you know about besides yourself?
No, just me. And that's part of the problem. With 2 of them are very conservative Christians, and they think I've quote left the Lord, so they don't want to really talk to me much.
The Lord gets a bad rap.
Huh?
The Lord gets a bad rap for a lot of things.
People speak more highly of him, but unfortunately they don't think that that's, they honestly think that it's impossible to be gay and Christian at the same time.
I see. I'm sorry for them.
Yeah.
Their loss. But so we put down that as one of your careers, right? Your ministry. How about now? Other things.
So now I'm the attendance secretary in an elementary school, which I absolutely love. I've always been great with computers and detail and having 6 different things happening at the same time, which is exactly the job description for an attendance secretary.
How long have you done that?
And this is my 2nd year. So I've never taken attendance in a non-COVID environment.
Really? Huh? How interesting.
COVID has just absolutely messed up attendance for every school ever.
So how do you do that actually?
It's very difficult because, of course, anytime a child gets a runny nose, which in an elementary school is every day,
right?
They have to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on their symptoms, they can come back tomorrow or they can come back in 10 days. If somebody in their family is COVID positive, they can't come back for 20 days.
So you keep track of all that?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the school nurses bear the brunt of it. And we work together to keep the we actually have an Excel chart of who's at what stage of returning to school.
So you're perfect with that. Right, you are. I mean, if you like all that chart keeping and you're good at it, I'm not, but they're happy to have you probably.
Yeah, and I love it, and I still get to interact with kids, which I love.
Yeah.
But I'm not, really not cut out to be a teacher, so I get just enough interaction with the children and not more.
Bye. I'll call your mother when you can come back. Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So when did you first realize that you were a lesbian?
Well, my friends here call me the dumbest gay person ever, because how could you be born in San Francisco and not realize you're gay until you're 40? But I managed to do it somehow.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think a lot of it for me was, this definition was always sexual orientation or sexually attracted. And as a young person, I didn't feel sexually attracted. You know what I mean? Like,
did you feel attracted to men?
Well, no, I thought that everybody thought my 6th grade PE teacher was gorgeous because she was. I thought all my friends thought so too, but apparently that's not true.
But
I didn't recognize that as a sexual orientation so much as I just thought she was pretty.
Right.
Right.
You were appreciating her.
Huh?
You were appreciating her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought everybody did that. And so it wasn't until I met this woman and we became best friends, and then we got even closer than best friends. And then one day she kissed me and I thought, wow, I really like that.
You were married at the time you were?
Yeah, that's kind of
good.
So basically I fell in love with my best friend, and then I had to sort of go, oh, well, like, is it just her or do I like women in general? And I'm definitely not bisexual, because it definitely put me off ever having a relationship with a man again. So that was part of this 3-year process that I went through, was like, well, what does this mean now? And then I started reading like lesbian literature, and they all had the same story. They all had the same experience as kids, where they were in love with their gym teacher, and they recognized that these women were beautiful and couldn't understand why all the girls were so impressed with all the guys, because they weren't that impressive. And then I thought, oh no, so that's what I am. I'm a lesbian.
How old were you when you were married?
19.
19. So did you think that was the next stage after high school, was to marry a man?
Yep. I joined the Air Force when I was 18, and I met my husband within 6 weeks of having joined up, and we were married within the year.
Did you have children?
Yes, I have 2 biological children, and they are 38 and 36 this year.
So how old were they when you left your marriage?
They were already adults, so they were 20 and 18 at the time. Well, maybe older than that, actually. Maybe 22 and 20. But anyway, they were both, my daughter was already in the Army and my son was already married.
And how are they about your sexuality?
Well, they're great. My daughter actually identifies as probably bi or pan, because she hates all the terms and labels. She's
there are new ones to choose from.
Thinks it's all stupid that we classify people. But she's in a relationship with a woman right now, and she's previously been in relationships with men. My son's straight and married to a woman and has 2 great kids. And they're fine with it. They're great with it.
Good. So it sounds like there is some homosexuality in your family besides you.
Yeah. I really do think that there's a biological link to some of this. And I wonder at what point science will back that up. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I bring it up, because I'm not a researcher, but it's so prevalent. And in the archives, there isn't research. They are going to start listing when people say, yes, my daughter, or somebody said the other day, all 4 siblings. That was huge.
I've noticed just passively, I've noticed a lot of twins.
Yes.
Like one of them will be gay, or both of them, especially twin boys.
I had girls that I knew that were lesbians.
Yeah.
So anyway, the genetic link is definitely there. When did you first, how old were you when you first had a significant relationship with a woman?
40.
40. And that was when you were still married, and you were in your.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Was I 40? Was it 2006? I was born 62. Is it 44? Anyway, yeah, 44 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was when this woman kissed you.
Yes.
You said, "This is great. This must be something I could do."
Right.
Except onto this.
Right. Except because of my training in that conservative denomination, I also thought it was a sin. Hmm. So in order to try to end the romantic part of the relationship, I moved 7 hours away. Mm-hmm. And took a job as a minister 7 hours away so that I wouldn't see her anymore.
Did that work?
Well, no, because word got down to the district superintendent where I was serving, and that's the guy who asked me if it was true. Uh-huh. And so I said, yes, it's true. And he said, well, then you're out.
Did you continue to see her?
Eventually, yes.
Yes, I see. Yeah. And did she become a significant relationship in terms of a partner? Yeah,
we ended up marrying.
Oh, okay. So
unfortunately, she was always very closeted in herself and has a lot of internalized homophobia. She never really dealt with the question of it. And she is a person who lives life on sort of two layers. And so that is ultimately also what ended our relationship, because I'm so out and I'm so open as a means to let the gay community know that or the queer community know that you can be in the queer family and also, be a Christian. And she just was never really comfortable. Like I've never heard her say of herself, I'm gay or I'm a lesbian. She would never use that terminology. And she probably only said she was married once or twice in the 7 years we were together.
Was she there for a ceremony?
Yeah, we had a ceremony and everything, but it was within our church, and she didn't tell her family. Mm-hmm.
Did you have children with her?
No.
No.
I wonder if I'd have had the courage to leave, but at least I would have known what was true earlier on.
At some point, everybody has to come to the same level about their sexuality for the relationship to work. And now you're married again?
Yes.
Good. And you're happy about it. I can see that.
I'm quite happy about it. My wife Janine and I are like stupidly happy together, and we keep saying we wish we'd found each other sooner, but of course after my children were born. So maybe because I wouldn't want to undo that. But
right.
Yeah.
So when did you meet her?
So we met officially in May. Well, we met online. We met on a dating app. Mm-hmm. But when she saw my face on the dating app, she thought I looked familiar. So one of her first questions on the dating app was, do you work in the Cheney School District? And I said, well, actually I do. I was currently working as a substitute, right? And it turned out that I had substituted in her room like 2 or 3 times the winter before. And she recognized me, which is the hard part about being gay, because we don't know when we meet a nice woman that she's also gay.
No, it takes a while.
Right?
Although your gaydar gets better as you get older. So
that's true.
Hang in
That's
there.
true.
But you really can't, until the person says, I'm a lesbian, I don't know. I don't care how they look, how they talk, what they talk about, but until they state that I'm a lesbian, then I say, okay, me too.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's my advice. If you think along in the interview, we're trying to record the past, which you're doing, and to inspire the future. So you don't want to, the things you said about your first wife or first spouse are things that people should listen to. The lack of connection, and very important elements. And because these are going to go out to college students, to many young people, mm-hmm. and they're going to be looking for what we say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the legacy I'd like to leave behind, is to let the younger people know that all things get better. And, if you can just hang in there, mm-hmm. Life's likely to turn around and you're going to end up super happy.
Mm-hmm. Is there a person in your life that's been a real significant mentor when you think back at time?
It's funny. I lost my mom over 25 years ago, but a lot of what she says is part of what's gotten me through some of the rough times. Mm-hmm. Certainly this counselor was a real gift to me.
Right.
And she, I mean, there were really some almost miraculous things that happened. In that, like, one day when I was so depressed and honestly was thinking about like driving my car into a tree, she called, and she didn't, you're not supposed to call your therapist unless it's an emergency. She called me, and for no reason. She just felt like she should call me.
She was right.
Yeah. And things like that kept happening. She really was like a little miracle. And then I had a Christian minister that has always been sort of the voice of reason for me, even though he's a part of that, the Church of the Nazarene, which is so conservative, and he knows I'm an out lesbian. He really has been a kind of a constant.
That's good.
So that's been good. He's been able to navigate that.
Do you feel you're a mentor for people now, young women?
That's a good question. I know I
can see you'd like to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's
all this. Your background lends you to that. Yeah. The fact that you were rejected for some absurdities. Yeah.
And when I was serving as clergy in the affirming church, I was out in the community all the time with, my little clerical collar on, and I was identifiable as Christian clergy, but then they also knew me as a gay woman. And so I was able to reach into the community, and I would get, the late night text messages from teens, and I would get referrals from people that, hey, I know somebody who just came out to his parents and they're going to kick him out. And, I was involved in that way. And I've gotten messages back from people that I was very helpful. And that's obviously, important to me. And less so maybe now that I'm not clergy, because they know I'm still a Christian, and they know I'm a Christian leader in the sense of, like I lead Bible studies and I talk about my faith a lot. And I do get people that'll ask me, hey, can we get together for coffee? Because, I have questions about what the Bible says about things.
They don't talk to you about your sexuality though.
No, because they know I'm gay, and that makes it safe to talk about the Bible.
Boy, that rationale is a new one.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I could point them at 6 or 7 affirming clergy in town, and they're like the one that married Janine and I. She's great. She's fully affirming, but she's not herself in the LGBTQ family. So it's that important for gay clergy to be visible and to represent, because the queer people that got kicked out of church don't want to talk to anybody else.
Well, you've become the teacher that you were looking at when you were young.
Yeah, I hope so.
I mean, really, because that's what's happening when people reach out to you, even though they don't say, well, I'm worried, do you think I am? Or maybe I kissed a girl, they're going to you for the same reasons that you were drawn to those other women.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope so. I mean, that's what I would like, is to leave a legacy of teens and as adults that love themselves and believe that God loves them. And
so in closing, do you have questions you'd like to ask me that we haven't gone over?
Well, I'm fascinated by this idea that it's about women and their careers, because it didn't, like you asked me what's your profession? And I'm like, well, when I think about profession, I think about getting paid, and ministry doesn't pay. So, right. I just wonder, does the collection hold things on women that have had a passion, whether or not it was their job,
No, we didn't base it on the economics. We just based it on.
Oh, good.
Right. It's not based on economics. It's based on what you call your occupation or career. We took it because we wanted to make it something that could be worthwhile, giving some direct information to people on a short form. So where'd you get your cross? It's beautiful.
I was given this by the Methodists. I served as the, what do you call it? The campus youth minister for the university I was at. So I started college at 51. And then when I graduated, I ended up doing a year with the United Methodist Church as a campus minister. And so when I was done with my year, they gave me this cross.
Beautiful.
And it's a rainbow on purpose.
I see, no, but it's beautiful. It shows up really nicely.
Yeah.
So in closing, when you think back, if you found out you were going to die shortly, how would you like to be remembered? Your legacy.
That's a great question. I'd really like to be remembered as somebody who loved people, like all kinds of people, and made connections between people. That's one of my greatest joys, is that out there now in the real world, there's two people who know each other, and the only reason they do is because they both knew me. But now they have a whole other great, productive relationship going. But I love that the reason they know each other is because they both knew me.
That's great. So you're the great connector.
Absolutely networking.
You like it, right?
I love that. Yeah,
I
love
believe in that too.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to get all these referrals from you, and I especially thank you for doing this with us. We'll stay in touch.
I so appreciate the work you're doing. I know this isn't easy, and especially during COVID and stuff. So thank you for just hanging in there.
We were so locked up, we had to do something.
There's got to be some positives coming out of this darn thing.
So thank you, and stay in touch. We will too.
Great. Thank you so much.
Huh?
Bye-bye.